If you want to improve your thoracic spine mobility but fail to see results with the same 4 exercises every YouTuber gives you, then stick around to not only learn a brand new strategy in under 10 minutes, but also where to place those exercises you already learned for the fastest results possible. Adam here from Training Massage, where you're going to learn the best strategies to relieve your pain and improve your mobility. Now, having limited mobility in the thoracic spine can usually result in things like a tight upper back and even pain in the shoulders and arms. In fact, it is common to see those who have limitations in their thoracic spine also have something like rounded shoulders with the scapula pulled forward and out, which is why we see so many professionals have you train the muscles that pull the scapula back and down to pretty much counteract it. But the problem here is they are ignoring the muscle that's creating that limited mobility in the first place. And to understand this, we're going to be looking at the scapula and breaking it down into 4 different muscles pulling in 4 different directions. The first one you have is the pec minor, pulling the scapula towards the front of the body. You then have the mid traps and the rhomboids pulling the scapula towards the back of the body, or the opposite direction. You then have the upper traps pulling the scapula up towards the ears, and then you have the lower traps pulling the scapula down towards the glutes. Now, like I said earlier, most people are only going to focus on strengthening those muscles to pull that scapula out of that bad position, like the lower traps and the rhomboids. But there is research that shows releasing the other muscles is just as important. Like this first study that shows the shorter a pec minor is, the more likely you are to have a scapula pulled toward the front of the body. And this study that shows releasing the pec minor helps improve rounded shoulders up to 2 weeks after only a single session. Plus, there's one other study that shows releasing trigger points and fascia in the upper traps helps relieve the pain as well. And this is why I'm going to be showing you how to release these 2 tighter muscles, plus what you need to do in order to prevent this from coming back. But before we get started, we should see if your T-spine is limited or not, and we can do this with the T-spine seated rotation test. And what's cool here is this little rotation test will also show us if we're limited with our thoracic extension, plus it will expose any muscle imbalances we have between the 2 sides. Now, to get started, you will need to have an X on the floor as you sit in the middle with your legs crossed and a stick across your chest. Now, from here, all you're going to do is rotate to one side as far as you can without any pain or discomfort. Make note of where your stick is and then rotate to the other side to compare. If you're not able to rotate to at least 45 degrees, or if you have an imbalance from one side to another, then that's considered a positive test, which means you're looking to improve your thoracic mobility. So now that we're done with the test, it's time to get started with these self-massage techniques. Now, the first muscle we're going to release is the upper traps, and we can use a small ball or a medium ball here in order to make it work. What you want to do is press your upper traps into the corner of a wall with a ball between your traps and the wall. Hold this static pressure for 1 minute, trying to get a little deeper with each breath. Now, while hanging out on that same spot, go ahead and perform a pin and stretch by moving your arm through its 4 ranges of motion and shrugging your shoulder while you're still pinning down that one tender spot. Do this for another minute. Now, the next muscle we're going to be releasing is the pec minor, and we can actually use this same exact tool here. To work on this muscle, it's best to lay prone on the floor with a ball under your chest. Now, from here, we can perform the same technique, starting with static pressure by finding the most tender spot and then holding pressure there for 1 minute while taking in big, deep breaths. Go ahead and perform a pin and stretch now by taking your arm through its 4 ranges of motion while remaining on that one tender spot. Go ahead and do this for another minute to release the pec minor. Now that we have self-massage for all the tighter muscles, this brings us back into those mobility drills you probably already tried in the past. Now, the first mobility drill you're going to be performing is going to be overhead extension on a foam roller. Lay on your back with a foam roller behind your upper back with your feet planted on the ground. Now, place your hands behind your head, lift your chest up, and fold backwards on the foam roller. Hold this for 3 to 5 seconds before you slowly return to your starting position and repeat. While you're in that down position, you can also perform some gentle rotations to open up those joints a little more. On top of that, you can also do this face down with the foam roller under your arms in front of you and only use one arm to get into that extension and rotation as well. Regardless of whichever extension technique you want to do, make sure you're doing it for 90 seconds. Second mobility drill you're going to be performing is going to be a T-spine rotation while laying on your side. Start by laying on your side with your top leg bent at 90 degrees on top of a foam roller and your arms stacked in front of you. Now, keeping your knee on that roller, rotate the top arm away from the body by rotating the thoracic spine. Hold this for a few seconds before you return to your starting position and repeat. And besides that, you can also perform an arm sweep as you're in the rotation to get some extra movement in the shoulder and the scapula. Once again, go ahead and do this technique for 90 seconds in total or 45 seconds each side. Now, this actually brings us into the final step, which is to exercise those weaker muscles that you might have tried as well. And the reason why we want to do this last is because by releasing the muscles first and then restoring and opening up the joint second, we can now actually train those weaker muscles and help restore that posture a lot easier because we're not fighting a locked up joint and we're not fighting the tight muscles. Now, the first muscle you want to be training is going to be the rhomboids using the front pull exercise. Get a band and hold the ends of it with your arms out in front of you. Now, from here, use your scapula only to retract and pull the band apart slightly. Hold this for 2 to 3 seconds and then return to your starting position. Do this a few times to wake up the rhomboids. Now, do the same exact thing here by first starting your movement by contracting the rhomboids, but then finish the pull by using the rest of the shoulders. Hold this position for a second or two before you slowly return back to your starting position, letting the rhomboids be the last thing that lets go of its tension. Your focus here is to make sure those rhomboids are the first thing to contract and the last thing to contract during this exercise. Go ahead and do this for 1 minute straight, doing as many good reps as you can and take as many breaks as you need. Now, the next muscle we're going to be strengthening is going to be the lower traps, and we're going to be doing this by performing a standing cobra. Hook your band to a high anchor while holding on to both ends of the band. From here, perform the same movement you did earlier by retracting the scapula first, but now pull them down as well towards the glutes. This is going to help engage those lower traps. Now, go ahead and perform that movement a few times to get used to it before you perform the full movement by pulling the band down to your side using the rest of your shoulder. And go ahead and perform that movement a few times to get used to it before you perform a full movement by pulling that band down to your side using the rest of your shoulder muscles. Hold the position for a few seconds before you start over and repeat for another minute, trying to perform as many good reps as you can and take as many breaks as you need. And as a bonus, we're actually going to be training the serratus anterior as well. Now, there are studies to show that the serratus anterior is normally weak with rounded shoulders and limited mobility in the thoracic spine, which is why we want to fire it up as well. To train this muscle, wrap the band around your back while holding both ends out in front of you, almost like a standing bench press. Now, from here, extend your arms out in front of your body with the shoulder blades passively pulled down and back. Now, go ahead and press your arms forward as you spread your scapula away from the spine. Hold this position for a few seconds and then repeat for another minute. Go ahead and retest your thoracic spine mobility and let me know in the comments how it went. Now, even though you just went through this and saw improvements, you may still have that tingly shoulder pain that you just can't get rid of. But luckily for you, we may know what that is. It could be 1 to 2 different muscles creating that compression on your nerves and the blood vessels. If you want to learn which muscle it is and perform some quick tests for that, go ahead and click on the video popping up in the top right corner. You can also go and check out my 30-day foam roller flexibility program, where I'm going to show you how to use the best self-massage techniques to not only get rid of your tension in the upper back, but throughout the entire body as well. If you want to check that out, make sure to click on the link in the description below.